Hello everybody, here we are, and right now we are gonna be just simply working on that Excalidraw clone project, and let's see what all is gonna be accomplished. As for right now, just a minute, give me a second. Okay, so let's just simply get started, and let me get the setup ready. Hopefully we are not gonna be, we are facing the network issue. Alright, yeah, so I hope everything's ready right now, and let's just simply start working on the project. So as for right now, if I just simply run it, we've worked on most of the things, and some of the things are still remaining, so let's just simply get them done. Mostly before even working on it, I had a bug, so let's fix that bug. I tried debugging it in the morning, but couldn't really find, then I had to leave. Let's try debugging it right now. So what is the problem right now here, that whenever I draw something, okay, and now once I try to resize it, so it, as soon as we start resizing, it actually increases the bit automatically, and what I think that is the bounce that's just being increased. So this is something we have to stop from happening, and it happens when with one shape, and even if you have many shapes, it's just gonna happen the same way. So as soon as we start resizing, it just simply increases a little bit. That is it. So that's the issue that we have it right now. So what is actually happening, that again I don't know what's the reason behind it, so it's all about debugging it if we can debug. So ultimately, just a sec, let's close everything. We have apps, web, and of course features editor, and inside editor we are resizing it, right? So hooks, and let's simply go to interaction, and when we resize, so that actually starts in here in the selection section. So first of all, that's need to be selected, and get group bounds. Let me just move it from here, that would be better. So this is gonna be under what? This is just a helper function that we have, so should be inside shapes or geometry. Get group bounds, this is sort of related to geometry, right? So geometry, bounding box, we have get bounding box. Let me create one more, that's gonna be get group bounds. Get group bounds .ts export. I think I can just simply copy and paste, that will be better. It's coming back to this whole thing we need to cut from here, and we have to simply paste it in here. Get bounding box, and alrighty, this seems to be done, and over here I'll actually need to export it, import it. So this is actually going to be imported just in here. As for this one, where is this required to be used? Somewhere here. Alrighty, so we have a refactored it a bit. Coming back to this one, in shape drawing, actually everything starts, ultimately the drawing starts, and we have pointer down, move, and up, and this is for creating the drawing shape, and that is it. This is how the simply goes on. So when we click, when the pointer down actually happens, but we are not really drawing here, so this is not gonna run. So whatever I have here, that's not gonna be running, and update selection hover. Yeah, so this particular part will not be running when we are actually resizing. So the second thing is this selection one. So once the shape is selected, even when we have this get selection box bounds, selection box bounds, even this can be exported from here. Let me do it really quickly. So again we have to go to geometry, bounding box, get selection box bounds, get a selection box bounds.ts. It could be okay, that's fine. Come back here, cut it from here and paste it in here, export from here. Okay, this particular thing is done. Of course I need to import it somewhere here, wherever it's required to be imported. It should be right here. Okay, coming back to this, we have to figure out the bug that we have. So on pointer down, so whenever the pointer down happens, we decide whether we are going to be resizing or not, right? So we are getting the selected shapes. If there's any, there can be many selected shapes. And apart from this particular thing, shift key, we are not really doing this. The second thing is this, that we'll try getting the resize handle, and if we have the resize handle, that simply means we are gonna resize. Resize handle is working well because when I actually call this on pointer down, so we are invalidating it. Invalidating means in the it will actually draw the cursor as well, the cursor type. That is fine. And apart from this particular thing, it is setting the group bounds and initial group bounds and the group bounds both. Initial group bounds will always remain the same, that's fine. And create size interaction, what it does, it simply returns the data, and that data contains the initial font size, free draw and line size. So free draw points, okay, just a sec. So I get the preview shape, and using that particular preview shape I have to create the data. Creating the data in the sense, just a sec, what's actually being done in here. So if data doesn't have the font size, then in that case I'm initializing the value, and then it will have the font sizes of all the shapes. So what's the use of storing the font sizes of all the shapes? So ultimately the preview shapes that I actually have, it will contain all the shapes. So the data that I'm actually passing, that data will have initial font sizes, let's see where that's actually going to be used. But at the end of the day, when we start resizing, so we store the font sizes of all, we store the preview ultimately free draw points of all, and lastly we store the line resize states, ultimately start and end for all. Okay, coming back to this, and when it comes to this group bound, so wherever I'm calculating this group bounds, it just simply calculates it from preview shape. So I have preview shapes, when I pass them, so I got the shapes. Once I got the shapes, I'm looping through them, and I'll get the bounding box of one shape, and once I get the bounding box of one shape, I'm actually getting the minimum and the max value. So this way I'm getting the group bounds as well. Okay, so this way group bound is calculated, that's fine, this much is okay. Resize handle is also working well, because as what is wrong with this, use canvas context menu. So cursor. Shape move. Never expected that this was used at so many places. Never mind. Shape resize. Create canvas renderer. Interesting. So ultimately we are actually getting bounds at many places, sort of calculating the selected shapes bounds. Use image upload. Alrighty, here we are. So if I just draw something, this sort of ultimately we are able to select the change the type of the cursor, right? So that particular thing is happening. And if I actually go to selection action, so resize handle, at least at this point of time, it works out of well. And especially when it comes to bounding box, they are the overall bounding box including the, so in this particular bounding box tolerance is already included, and we have the shapes, that is fine. We are getting the resize handle, and when we get the resize handle, so we are just simply setting it all. So group bounds, it contains the tolerance as well. Wherever it's gonna be used, tolerance will also be there. So that's what we have to keep in mind, and apart from it, remaining things are all right. So this is the first thing, and that is it. This is what happens when pointer down happens. Interesting thing starts when the pointer move happens. So when we start moving the mouse, first of all the cursor should be changing, and it is sort of changing as well. It remains that, so that is fine. And by default the type is gonna be select or no. Yeah, the type is actually gonna be select. So if the type is actually select, we may start moving it, but okay, if we actually click at the over here, so the type will automatically become resize, if I'm not wrong. So whenever we are clicking on pointer down, so when I call this, the type automatically becomes resize. So as the type automatically becomes resize, so this particular section is gonna run. We are gonna resize the shape, and we are passing the end point from here, and so this is the part that's responsible for resizing the shapes. And over here we are getting line resize states. They are the initial states for resizing the line. It has the start point and end point for the line only. Free draw points we have, initial font sizes we have, initial group bounds we have, handle we have, and initial shapes, and so on and so forth. Going ahead, using the initial group bounds, okay, and this we are getting the rectangle. So that's actually the inner rectangle without any tolerance. So if I have the bounds and I have the current point, so on the basis of this thing I have to get a rectangle. Current point, what does it do? Let's see what's the use of having the current point over here, because once we have handled the current point, what is the use of current point? Actually current point increases or decreases, so that is fine. So having the value of the current point is understandable over here, because we have to change the values, and initial group bounds we have. So going ahead, once we get the initial bounds, we are subtracting the tolerance from there, or removing the tolerance. So that is fine, tolerance is being removed. Once the tolerance is removed, then what happened? I have my pure initial bounds without any tolerance. Okay, once I have them, I'm increasing those bounds only without any tolerance. So start min x y, and it just simply keeps going on. So the result that I get by the end, so whatever the result is returned, that contains the initial bounds, but I remove the tolerance. Once I remove the tolerance, based on the handle I checked where I actually clicked, and on the basis of that thing I'm gonna be increasing the values and all. Okay, makes sense. Once this particular part is done, so we have the start value, we have the end value, keeping in mind that this start and this end doesn't really contain the tolerance, right? So when we normalize this, we get a rectangle that has the x, y, width and height, and this thing doesn't really have any tolerance in itself. So it doesn't have any tolerance. Okay, and this is the rect, that to the inner rect. So we have rect, and then what do we do? Once we have rect, after that I'm checking whether is group selection or not. Initial map, okay, that's great. And this is where we are updating the shape. So when we are actually updating the shape, so initial shape map.getShape.id will check whether that particular shape actually exists or not. If that doesn't, we will be returning. If that does, so we'll check what we are actually trying to update. Is that free draw, text, line, arrow, or something else? So at that time when I'm actually updating this, I'm actually passing what? Suppose in free draw we are having issue, so I'm passing rect. This rect is without any bounds. We are passing initial group bounds, and initial group bounds will have bounds. As for the rect, we have removed it. This is the interesting stuff. What is actually happening that let's go to Excalidraw. Let's remove all these things from here. By default, suppose we had this rectangle. This is one that we had from the beginning. Okay, so this is what we had, and once we had this, then we even had some tolerance around this. So probably this is gonna be the tolerance section. So this was the tolerance that we had, right? And once we had this tolerance, so we got rect, and when we got rect, so we actually removed the tolerance and then got x, y, width and height. So once we actually remove the tolerance, so rect is nothing but this inside one. So let's keep it this. So rect is the value of this, because if we actually remove the tolerance and try getting the values, what am I doing here? Ain't I doing the same thing? I have the handle, that is fine. I have the current point and I have the initial group bound. So if the current point actually increases, so it is gonna be changing. And inside this, what am I doing? First of all, I have initial bounds. From the initial bounds, I remove the tolerance, so I get this one in here. And once I get this one, after that what actually happens? Once I get this one, I'm calculating the start and end value of this one, and once I have them, I increase depending on the current points. So if the current point increases at some handle, so I'm gonna be just simply increasing that, and once that is done, we are normalizing that and just returning that. The only thing is that this so the rect that we actually have here, that is this inner rect, right? And now what are we doing next? Once we have that particular rectangle, then we are checking which how many shapes we are actually selecting, and if that is free draw or something else, then we just handle that thing right here. And when it comes to handling that, even if that is another shape, it doesn't really matter if that is a free draw or this. Resize the free draw shape, and suppose that is default. In that case, suppose that is rectangle, and even during that same thing happens. So is group selection, first of all we'll check if that is a group selection. Get a scaled shape rect. I'll pass initial shape, I'll pass initial group bounds and rect. Initial shapes are required because we are gonna be returning if we have initial group bounds, why do we need initial shape? Let's see. So we get initial shape, we get initial group bounds and rect. I think initial shape is required for what? That's required, initial shape is required. The question is once we have the initial shape, initial group bounds and rect, rect is the inner one without any tolerance, initial group is with the tolerance, and initial shape is just normal shape. So once we get a group scale, so initial group bounds, and I pass the rect, it returns me what? It returns me the group scale x and scale y. Exactly how much is scaled in x horizontally and vertically. And get a group scale. When it comes to get a group scale, so it gets the initial bounds and it gets the rect. This is with the tolerance, this is without the tolerance. So what we are doing, get adjusted initial bounds we pass, we actually remove the tolerance from there. So the tolerance is actually removed from initial group bounds. So when we are calculating the scale, at that time we are just simply making sure that the tolerance is removed, and it is just like this. There is no tolerance at that time. And once there is no tolerance, so both become sort of the same, and initial group bounds will be initial one, and the rect may increase. So the rectangle that I have, that might increase, but when it comes to initial group bounds, so if this is initial group bounds, it will always remain the same, rectangle might increase. Okay, so old x, max x, min x, this is fine, and we are returning this. So we are returning these values. So when we are returning max x, min x, and they are without any they are without any tolerance, so there is no tolerance as such remaining in them. That simply means that max x, min x, max y and min y that I actually get, that actually belongs to this section right now. So this blue section right now. Okay, and we get a scale, and so ultimately rect dot width divided by old width, rect dot height divided by old height. So it will just simply keep increasing or decreasing, but at the end of the day we are going to be getting scale x and scale y, and that is how it just simply happens. So ultimately what is happening, that we have this rect, and not only this rect, just above this rect there can be another we can change the color for sure, it can be this. So just over this, for example like this, so first of all we have normal default one, so this white color is the default one, and let me change the color of this, probably this one. This is gonna be keep changing, so this is gonna be the current rectangle. So current rectangle in the sense rect dot width, because it just simply keeps changing. Old is the value of the white one that is already saved. So we have the new width, we have the old width, using them we can calculate this. Okay, that's fine. So once we are actually calculating, so the rect dot width is without the bounds, old width is without the bounds. When we are calculating the ratio in them, ratio, the weight actually changed. So I'll get it right. So it will be we are calculating without the bounds, and that's what makes the difference. Okay, fine. So we got the group, we got the scale S, we got scale Y, and after that, if width increases, trying to get scaled shape rect, right? Exactly how much shape has been scaled. So now we have to calculate the points. So initial bounds, we have the rect. This shows us exactly how much it has changed. We already know exactly how much it has changed, as we already know. So rect yes x, that was the starting one, so somewhere here, and plus initial shape minus group min x, so minimum x value of the group. So ultimately, if this particular section is the group, there are many shapes as well at the end of the day. So what we are doing, initial shape dot x, so ultimately initial shape that's been saved, that is the shape of what, that is the shape of the rectangle, minus group dot min x, that can be somewhere here, and once that is done, we are multiplying it by scale. So ultimately, group dot min x, minimum value of the group, that is always gonna be less than the initial shape. This initial shape dot x that we have, does that have tolerance? Think about it. So ultimately this is nothing but rect, right? So rect doesn't have any tolerance, but just a minute. Alrighty, so here we are. So what I was just simply about to say, that is we have this rect dot x. So ultimately the rect that we have, that is without any bounds, right? So rect doesn't have any bounds. How about this initial shape dot x? Does it have any bound? Group dot min x, it doesn't have any bound. How about this initial shape dot x? So when we are storing initial value, do we add the rect any tolerance in this or not? So the value is actually saved when we click down, selection action, and by default the value is gonna be selected, and when the value is actually selected, this particular section is gonna be running, and as we are not gonna drag, so this particular section is not gonna run. So if we are not resizing, that is the pointer move section. Let's go to the pointer down, and we have the selected shape, type is not equals to this. We are not clicking shift button, that simply means we will be redirected here, and we have the preview shapes, they are the selected shapes. Once we have the preview shapes, we are getting their group bounds. Once we got them, we are passing the resize handle. So we have the preview shapes. This preview shape does have its value. Preview shape means start x start by bounds and all, ultimately just like this. So those shapes have bounds, yes or no? If we actually calculate the bounds of the shape, so definitely it will have, because when we are getting the bound shape, group bounds, it's easy to get it here when we are getting the bounding box. So if the type is gonna be equals to these, update bounds for shape without the points, and another one is with the points. Let's talk about without the points. So we have x, we have y, we have width, we have height, and after that update bounds. We have new x and y, so they are gonna be updated. Update bounds with the x and y. What are we doing here? Update bounds twice. Update bounds for shape without points. Why is this happening? What it does? Without points, right? So that's gonna be end, that's gonna be starting. So x and y, they are the starting points, and we get the minimum value and max value in here. Then we update it by the height and width, so we just simply add it, so we get sort of end x and end y. Once we get them, so even that is getting updated here. So we have min x, we have max x, we have min y, we have max y, and min x point x, min y point y. So what are we doing in here? That is we are calculating the bounds, so bounding box ultimately we are calculating, and for that thing we have a shape. From once I got these, I'm checking them and then updating it again and again so that the value can actually be saved in there. Okay, and once the value is actually saved here, do we have bounds added in the update bounds x y, and we got these. Once we got these, we just updated it. Okay, so updating it should not be a problem. The thing is that as soon as you just move it a bit, it increases it suddenly. Updating the bounds so that we can actually get the max and min, so that is fine, not really a big problem. And this seems to be alright. Then we got min x, min y and all, and once we got these values, do we actually need to send them from here, or it can be done directly as well? Let me see. Whenever we are getting bounding box, so getting bounding box means what? Getting bounding box means included a tolerance. Okay, if the tolerance is not included, I will not be able to show it the right way. Alrighty, so this particular thing is done. So if we don't return, we just simply return the min x, min y. That simply means that without any bound. So once this particular value gets returned, get bounding box whenever we are getting the bounding box. It just moves a bit, so it moves on towards the right, so the tolerance need to be added if it actually moves to the right. because if I'm actually removing the tolerance, then it should be, it should actually be moving to the left. I'm getting confused. Actually, I'm not getting any idea. What am I missing? Something is missing, something related to the tolerance. So updated bounds for shape without points. So shape without points. We have the start, we have the end. We have ultimately these with the shape. And once we have them, we got x and y. We are gonna be updating the shape with the x and y, and then so this is the starting value. This is the end value. So this is just the start, and this is gonna work as the end, right? Once it works as start and end, then x and y update bounds, we are just simply updating it in here. That simply means the value are gonna be changing like this, and we have min x all these values, and they are not without any tolerance. If they are not without any tolerance, so if there is no tolerance and we are returning it from here, so the group bounds that we actually get, it has no tolerance by default. That's right. If a group doesn't have any tolerance, then the rect should not have either. So by default we have the rect in here. The rect will keep increasing or decreasing. Similarly group, we also have the group in here. So what is the problem now? The problem is not that it is changing, the problem is that the value of x and y are changing. So we have to just fix this. So x should start, so we have min x, we have min y, and we are returning these values. They are the bounds again, right? So we are getting the group bounds, and group bounds are also without any, so group bounds in the sense probably the bounds of this one group. So we are going to be having the group bounds here. So when it comes to the group bounds, it is without any it's without any tolerance. At least right now it is without any tolerance, otherwise it will be somewhere out. But if it is here inside that, so it is without any tolerance. We have it, that is also without any tolerance. Now we are going to be dividing them. This is fine. Just one thing we need to change, and that is the value of x and y. If we could just fix this part, the remaining things are gonna be fixed though. So first of all, we have removed the tolerance. When I'm getting these values, okay, and get a bounding box, what was it like? So whenever we are getting the bounding box, no, we are not even worried about the selection box. When we are getting the bounding box based on the shape, So at that time I'm doing it like this. At that point of time, just a minute, let me try adding the tolerance here. We are not changing the value of the max x and max y, but I'm changing the value of this. It decreases. Instead of adding, we have to remove, right? Yeah, that's what I wanted. This is the exact result. Not exact one. It works for one shape but not for many. Okay, so min x, and if I'm decreasing the tolerance, that simply means initially I should be adding here if I actually want to decrease the tolerance, but I'm not doing that. And if I'm actually passing them without any tolerance, so they are the main points, right? Without any tolerance, so the get bounding box that I actually get, this returns me the bounds without any tolerance. Okay, once I get the bounds without any tolerance, I have to return them, and when I'm returning them, I have to make sure that they have the bounds. Understood? So while getting the bounds from here, I have to remove the tolerance completely and calculate without any tolerance. And lastly, when I'm returning the bounds at that time, group bounds at that point of time, probably we have min x, we have min y, we are adding the tolerance in the, we have max x, we have max y. Once we remove the tolerance, it looks like this. That simply means it's good to have the tolerance here as well. So this is how it's gonna be going on, and ultimately they do not have the tolerance at all. Okay, so not having the tolerance is fine as well, because when we get the bounce we just get the bounce, we do not add the tolerance. Adding the tolerance is a okay. So this particular part is done, and now what the bounding box of all the shapes, and at that time it doesn't have any tolerance. Okay, if things don't have any tolerance, then why is this still increasing? Start resizing interaction, we are just simply saving all these things, so they are being saved without having any tolerance. And when it comes to moving mouse move, so we start resizing. If I actually go here, I get this, I get the rect. Now this doesn't have any tolerance, so the rect that I'll get it doesn't really have any tolerance as of right now, so I'll just comment it here. It's suddenly being increased. Initial bounce that I actually had, they did not have any initial bounce. They could have. Let's take care of the initial bounce. So whenever we are selecting pointer down happens, and resize interaction, we have initial group bounce, okay. So they are gonna be equals to group bounce, and we are calculating the group bounce in here. When we actually calculate the group bounce, we are making sure that there's no tolerance. That simply means it will not have any tolerance, means when I pass it here and save it here, it will not have any tolerance. And done. Now it's all about moving that. So when it comes to moving the mouse, we are gonna be resizing. So when we actually resize, we get the initial bounce, it doesn't have any tolerance. And if it doesn't have any tolerance, we don't need to add to this, right? And if we don't have to add to this one, I can continue, and once done I'll be back here, and after that we have to get the ease in point handle, that is okay. Resize line shape, when we are doing it, we are resizing it directly without any bounce, that is okay for the line. And arrow, coming back to this, even here when it comes to an arrow, so if we have more than one shapes, so if we don't have any rect, we have to return, otherwise we have to continue. So scale point in group, we are passing the initial bounce. We don't really need to adjust it now anymore, because initial group bounce, they are the default ones, so we don't really need to remove it. And once this is done, So this seems to be alright. So we'll be getting the exact points without any tolerance, and then we are just simply returning it and all, that's fine as well. Let's talk about this free draw resize. Free draw size, we are passing the initial bounds. When we are resizing it, scale point in group, this will automatically use the default one, that is fine. Then we have text. It depends whether the selection is in group or not. If it is not in, it will have rect, otherwise it will have a scaled shape rect. It uses this again. In the remaining case, it will get the bound. It returns the bound directly, get shape bounds. So return a text shape. So when we are returning the remove being added the tolerance, but we haven't really added any tolerance now anymore. Let's see. I'll have to dig deeper into it really well, keeping each and everything in mind, otherwise it's not gonna be possible to debug it. Anyway, done. I'm going with the things without any tolerance. First of all, let's fix it this way, then I'll try adding the tolerance. When we are rendering this, a renderer, where is that? So hopefully draw line, okay, let's see how it looks like. Okay, at least one works good. It still increases. So when it comes to having these images, shapes to be precise, it should not be increasing or decreasing it on its own, even if that's a pixel. But in our case, it doesn't happen when we select one shape. No, it does happen with that as well. Yeah. Interesting. So if I if I have actually removed the tolerance from everywhere, where it is point in selected shape, to check the point whether that's inside the selected shape, tolerance is being used in here. This is just for checking purpose, right? just by checking nothing's gonna happen. So it does. Let's do one thing. Let's try removing it. I'll be just going with this directly. Let's work without any tolerance, and we already have this committed, so no need to worry about it as such. We'll just go back, get adjusted group bounds, adjusted. Let's remove the tolerance completely. That's what I wanted, the exact result. What was the problem? What I just removed? Get adjusted. Where is that? Get adjusted. What is this? What does this do? Get adjusted. Okay, I just simply hold from here, so it doesn't. It is not really being used though. So it's just being used at one place. So okay, that's fine with this. I can come back. Apart from get adjusted, where we removed it. That's what I wanted. Now the problem is that you need to have what bounce as well. So it's not like without the bounce it's gonna be simple. Anyhow, we'll have to have the bounce. But what was the bug? Because then we have to add the bounce too. We were adding the tolerance. Is a point in selected shape bounce? It doesn't really matter, or does it? Yeah, it is fine. This is okay. Second one is this, get size rect. So once I'm actually adding this over here, so I'll actually have to add everywhere else. Okay. Okay, so ultimately what we've done so far, that it's gonna be raining outside on my side. So what is happening, that we are able to resize it well. So while resizing, we are not facing any kind of issues, right? It is just being resized as much as we want. So the next thing that we have to do, we have to have the bounce now, because even though we have the bounce, but there is no tolerance. So it's time to add the tolerance in such a way it's actually working. Okay, so let's just simply do that. So when it comes to adding the tolerance, so we have to add the tolerance for every shape. First of all, this thing, that simply means whenever we are getting the bounce, if I go to get bounding box, group bounds, before even that bounding box is enough. So over here, just a sec. So whenever I'm getting the bounce, and I'm just simply removing the tolerance from here. So removing the tolerance in the sense there's gonna be some extra space, right? So let's see the result. So yeah, it is like that. Ignore the voice around me. So this is working. Let's see whether it has any effect on that. It does not have any effect on the result. Just a minute, let me go and close the doors. It's raining heavily. I'll be back. Alright everybody, so here we are. So we were just simply working on this, right? So we did what? We added the tolerance in the bounding box, so that the bounding box has some space from the main shape. So this particular thing, it was like this initially, and it even needs to be like this. So everything's fine, because when it comes to getting group bounce, it's gonna be calculating it from the bounce itself. So bounding box, they remove the tolerance, they sort of add the tolerance, so the tolerance is actually added here. So this particular thing is done. Nothing needs to be changed here either. Now there's only one thing. If there are many shapes, increasing, so bounding box, slowly I'm getting to know about the region. Coming back to this, if we select many shapes here, What am I missing? As soon as I add the tolerance, it should calculate from the tolerance itself. So if I'm actually adding the tolerance here, so the tolerance is added and it now looks like this. Now when I resize, I need to do what? Let's see. So whenever we are resizing, so let's go to, there are so many things, I am myself getting confused here. So web, feature, editor, we have to go to hooks, interactions, and especially when you start resizing at that time, when we resize the stuff in here. So shapes, resizing, arrow, no problem with this. Scale point in group. So the initial bounds that I have right now, they have the tolerance right now. So the tolerance needs to be removed. Once the tolerance is removed, let's see now. So plus I added in min x and min y. Tolerance is actually added. Just a sec. So we have the initial group bounds, and these initial group bounds, what is happening actually there? I need to remove it, right? Removing means plus or minus. Plus will move it to the right direction, yeah. So I have to add, that is right, and removing the tolerance, that is also right. On the basis of this thing we are calculating this. So now it's being increased. It's being increased in the sense there is a place where I'm not removing the tolerance. And what is that place? Resize. So when we start resizing the text, when we start resizing the reader doesn't really need this line. Let's go to the free draw. When we are getting the resize rect, okay. So directly it works fine. The thing is that when we add the tolerance, at that time, after adding the tolerance, the result is I'm not able to sort of remove the offset. That's the thing. So at the end of the day, what we are doing, we are adding the tolerance in the bounds. First of all this, and bounds in the sense going to geometry, bounding box, with bounding box. This is the place where the tolerance was actually added, and once the tolerance is actually added in the bounding box, after that, now whenever I use that bounding box, it increases. So is point in selected shape, it is good to have here. Yeah, this one is a good one. And apart from this particular thing, probably I know the region, or I don't. I know it. The thing is that when we click, we get the start point. That start point itself doesn't have any tolerance, and that is something that causes it. Probably. Let me do it. One thing here. ls get a status. I wanna get rid of it. So restore and everything. So get restore everything. Get status. What's wrong with these two files? Okay, these are the new files that are actually created, right? So when it comes to these two files, probably I'm closer to the issue, but let's see how close I am. These two files are actually created, and if I actually go to any, suppose selection box, not selection box, actually going to the hook, selection actions, and probably at the top I would have the same file again because I rolled back or something. Yeah, great. Group bounds, we have it here again. So let's simply get rid of this, and wherever it is, let's do one thing, let it be here for now. We just want to check it, right? Later we'll format it. So once this much is done, we'll be back to the same level from where we actually started, but with a bit clarity. so probably I'll try to implement that, and hopefully the problem is going to be resolved. So what we are actually doing, whenever the point down happens, when the pointer down actually happens, pointer down here, come on. Yeah, so on pointer down, if I have the resize handle, in that case I'm gonna be doing this, and create a resize interaction data, that's also fine. This is not the one. When I click down, if that is resize, that simply means I'm keeping the start and end value somewhere. Let's do one thing. If I actually want to know about that, so I have to see where they are used. So to check them where they are used and they have any connection with this, I have to go to pointer state, and here we have line resize state, and I'd like to check exactly where it's being assigned the value. So it's being assigned value in here, get absolute points. So we have start and we have end. It will return us this. That is good. Line resize states, so it is mainly for the line, right? And with the lines you don't really have any problem as such. So when it comes to this line resize, we mainly get the rectangle, we have the shape, and the distance is already too much, right? So the shape that I actually get, that should have tolerance included. That is the first thing. And the second thing is that if that doesn't have any tolerance, so the end point that I have, that should have the tolerance. This could also be the thing. So end point. Now the thing is that if the end point is here, tolerance should be decreased. If it is here, the tolerance should actually be increased. So it's gonna be problematic. Or whenever we are resizing that, at that time we can do it manually. So whenever we are resizing it, use the shape resize and resize the shapes right in here. Resize free draw shapes. Free draw shapes are usually fine with this. Let's try resolving this one first. We have text. Are we getting point here? Current point, we are getting it. When we are getting the current point, we are getting the rectangle. We have start, and this is how we are calculating. One thing that I have to do here, that is, if I am at the top, so y should be current point y, and probably at the top tolerance should be added, right? So plus tolerance. So from the top, if I add the tolerance, that will be covering that, and from the bottom I need to subtract the tolerance. So start is gonna be this current point. I need to add in both. Actually, I need to add, right? So current point dot x plus tolerance, and y is gonna be current point dot y plus tolerance. Okay, from top left is done. From top right, okay, this one I need to subtract here. So y needs to be what? Subtracted, not subtracted. It needs to be added. Tolerance first. We'll have a look at this again. And from the end we have x. From x we actually need to subtract it. And bottom left, this one. In that case, x, I need to add the tolerance here. And y, I need to subtract the tolerance here. And this one, last one, x is gonna be current point dot x, subtract the tolerance because this is the end, current point dot y minus tolerance, just like this, and then do the stuff. What are we doing? Exactly at the top, the tolerance, I have to remove the tolerance. For that thing I have to add, because adding the tolerance means going forward. Going forward means removing the tolerance, as simple as that. So from the top and all we have to add the tolerance so that it gets removed, and from bottom we have to subtract. So from the bottom we are subtracting it, from the left we have to add, so this is done. From right we have to subtract, so we are doing this. From top left, so from the top I have to add, left I have to add, so I'm adding it both the sides. Top right, so top add, right subtract, so top add, right subtract. So top start, right, and end, yeah, that's fine. Bottom left, so bottom subtract, left add. So bottom means what, current x, so So this is the starting point. So starting point in the sense this is the start value. So ultimately it has current.x. I need to add because this is the left point and then this is the end one. So bottom one I'm subtracting from there. Then we have bottom right, so we have to subtract from both. So bottom right needs to be subtracted from both. And once I've done this much, so let's see the result now. Wow, it works for one shape. Amazing, superb, everybody. This is it. We were not adding the tolerance. What was the problem? Let me at least if there's any, I don't know if there is somebody watching it or not. Oh, there are people. Great. So what was the problem? Let's talk about the issue, and then at least theoretically you should know exactly what I did. Code wise, again it will be a lot to explain. Coming back to this, so what was actually happening, that how can I explain it? I fixed this, but to explain, by default we have tolerance. What is the tolerance? Tolerance is the extra part, not this. If I just click on any shape, so you have this white color over here. Just beside white color you have this border. So there is that distance between this white color rectangle and that particular border. So that is what I am calling tolerance. Okay, so what I am doing, I am adding the tolerance so that whenever I have this marquee selection, so the selection that we have, that is actually called marquee selection. So at least there is some space between the main shape and the marquee selection that I have, or the selection box that I have. The benefit is that now between this space, wherever you move, your cursor will assume that okay, you are gonna be resizing. So because if you don't have this marquee selection, this much space, so there's gonna be only one line, and again it will resize and all, but the space for resizing is going to be really small. That is why I added some space, and wherever your mouse is under this, over that space, the program will consider it as the resizing space, and it will start resizing from there. This is the first thing. So we added the this tolerance. So whenever we calculated the bounds, so over here inside bounding box, I added the tolerance. So from min x, so min x in the sense this left value, so min x and min y is this. So adding the tolerance means going backwards, going before this particular shape. So adding the tolerance means going this way. So, and that is why I am subtracting the tolerance over here, that so that I move a little left and topward leftward and up. That is now whenever I click on it, suppose I am clicking on this, so I hope this is gonna be visible. Suppose I am clicking, I selected this, or let me select it all. I selected this and I am clicking over at this particular point. Now as I am clicking on this particular point, it is the exact point. It doesn't know any tolerance. Suppose I clicked on this particular point, so it will give me suppose event dot client 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 x and event dot client y. So I got client x and client y. These are the exact client x and client y. They don't know about the tolerance. So what I'll have to do, that I'll have to make sure that because if I'm clicking on this point, so this is not the exact point of the shape, right? Ideally what should happen, again this must be hard to understand for sure. So if this is the shape, this is the main shape, and let me make it bigger, this is the tolerance. So this is gonna be the tolerance that we have. So this is the main shape of ours, this is the tolerance, and this is the space between this is the space just between them, and this is called the resizing area. Okay, so this is my main shape, this is my ultimately marquee selection, or selection you call that, and I added some tolerance so that now whenever I move my cursor between this in this area, it will consider it as a selection resizing area, and it will start, as if I click down, it will start resizing the shape. Now I added this, that is great. The thing that I missed, that I did, because when I got this client X and client Y, so suppose I clicked here, okay, because this is the resizing area, so I clicked here and I started resizing. So what I got event.client X and event.client Y. Are they the exact coordinates of the shape? No, the exact coordinates of the shape will be client X. Suppose I am clicking here, so client X minus tolerance and client Y minus tolerance. If you can understand, this is what the main logic is. Tolerance, again depending on the corner you have to add or subtract. But if I talk about this particular corner, so over here when I selected on this particular point and started resizing, so this whole thing is the, come on, this whole thing is the marquee selection. And if I'm clicking on the marquee selection, I'm not clicking on the exact shape. This is the exact shape. I'm not clicking on the exact shape, rather I'm clicking on the selection, so to resize that. So as soon as I clicked on this is not the exact coordinate of the shape, because shape is here. So the exact coordinate of the shape would be this particular point, ultimately this particular point, not this one, right? And that is why what we'll do, once I got my event.client X, event.client Y, I'm gonna be subtracting the tolerance, so that instead of getting the coordinate of this, I'm actually getting the coordinate of this one, and that is why I'm subtracting the tolerance. And this is just the story of one corner. You have this, you have this, you have this, and you have these corners, then you have these midpoints, right? So depending on the need, you have to subtract it, and that's what I did over here, where I did it whenever we are resizing it, update shape, I think, not this one. I have this use shape resize. This uses resize text shape and all. Ultimately, resize free draw, resize text shape. We have to even get them right. But at the end of the day, just a sec, give me a moment. Line is working. Free draw shape, not this one. Think about it. Where are you getting the rect from? Get a size rect, probably this one, not this. Yeah, this is the part. So exactly the place from where you are actually getting the rect in the sense this particular rectangle, inner rectangle. So from wherever you are getting that, so as you got your current point, you want to calculate the coordinates of the current rectangle, ultimately this white one that we have here, right? So you will have to either add the tolerance depending on the need. And if you actually have a look over here at the bottom right, that simply means bottom and right, this particular section over here, we are actually subtracting the tolerance from both x coordinate as well as y coordinate, so that okay, instead of being here, I am actually getting the coordinates of this particular point. So this is how it's getting done. So overall things are clear, but yeah, I mean it is working. So this particular thing is done as well. And apart from this particular thing, let's draw something like this and try resizing this. Yeah, great. So the problem was that we were not getting the exact rect from here. So we were not getting the exact coordinates of the current shape, and because of we were getting a little more. So the rect that we were getting, this overall rectangle that we have in here, so the rect for that particular shape were a little more, and that is why it was just simply jumping a little bit, and we fixed that. This particular thing is done. As for the lines and all, they've been in lines. We are not using bound tolerance related. We are have tolerance. We are not using bounding box, because line they have just simply one point, right? So click on the point, change the value, and the job is done. So lines and arrows, they are pretty simple, just the same. And text, let's try this thing out. Let's make it bigger and let's see. I'm not able to check it well. Let me delete everything from here. Let me change the color to green. Probably font should be a little bit larger. It should be okay. Let it be here. That's enough. and now let's see whether we are actually able to resize it well or not. So no, we are not able to, or are we? There is, come on, something's up with this, so we have to fix this. And apart from it, other shapes are working quite fine, right? Yeah. How about this? This is also fine. It just simply increases it a bit. So there is something missing, something's up with the free draw. So whenever we are resizing free draw, so when we are actually resizing free draw, what we are doing, we are getting the current point, aren't we? We are getting rect. Okay. Once we are getting rect, the rect is quite well right now. So get scaled point, we are passing p. What is this? These are the exact coordinates, and we have rect, we have the exact coordinates. What is up? It is still jumping a little bit, so some kind of extra offset is there, extra high points are there. So coming back to this, so it was actually under transform, the overall resizing logic. Coming back to this, use the shape resize. Even I have to resize over and over, yeah, probably. Anyway, so why am I facing the network issue? It doesn't really matter, forget about that. So when it comes to the other shapes, so we have just direct over here, or we have the selected shapes over here. In both the cases, we are just simply passing the rect in here. So, and once we have this, we have to resize it. So we are passing the GTF shape rect is group selection, and initial group size and font size. That's fine as well. Let's click on this one. This is the logic that we have to correct. So where are we missing? What are we missing? So we have to resize the text shape. When we are resizing a text shape, we have the updated shape, that's gonna be the shape, and the rect, just a sec, shape and rect, updated shape, that is okay, fine, no problem as such. Update, going ahead with the stuff, and that is it. Overall this is fine, especially if I don't add this, it's gonna be problematic. Yeah, so we need to remove the tolerance for sure. Rect already has the tolerance now. Like if I click on any point, and then I'm gonna be getting the rectangle. So when I get the rectangle, it gets the right coordinates, the coordinates that it should actually be getting. So doesn't matter where you are clicking, you are gonna be getting the right updated shape. Once you get the right updated shape, why are you removing this? And even if you remove this, I think it is working the way I want. It just increases a bit. It's not the accurate one. So now the question is why? The rect that we have, ultimately, if I go one step back, and one step back means where we have resized text in here. Let's close everything first of all. We have to work with two files only, so we have resized rect over here, and we have use shape resize over here. So when we are actually resizing the text, so at the time I'm getting the initial font size initial font sizes for that particular shape, that is also fine. And then if the font shall return is group selection, there can be group selection as well. So get a scaled shape rect, scale x, scale y, group scale, initial bounds, and when there are initial bounds, tolerance is added. Rect we are getting here. Rect doesn't have rect points. It does know about the tolerance now, so rect does include the tolerance. So we have this, we have this, get this, and over here get adjusted group bounds. Why do we need this now? If the simple thing is that if my rect knows about this now, so what is the use of subtracting the tolerance in here? So still we need to work on this. Probably we'll keep getting closer as we just simply keep debugging it. Initial group bounds, let's see what's the effect of it. It doesn't really have any effect on this one because it works on for group scale. Okay, yeah, so this is where it will be problematic. So when it comes to group scaling, so why do we need to subtract it? Because I clicked here, and when it comes to group scaling, so what actually happens that we try to get a bounding box. Yeah, first of all this needs to be done. Once we got the initial group bounds, it has the bounds, it definitely has the bounds, so we need to subtract it so that it get closer to the shape. Once it is closer to the shape, so once the initial group bounds doesn't have the rect tolerance, then it becomes the bounds of the exact shape. Once they become the bounds of the exact shape, then we can get the old width and old height. And once it has the old width and old height, we already have rect, and this time this rect knows about the tolerance as well. So we have this, and now this thing needs to be fixed, especially when there is a text remaining times. It works. Yeah, so this works for it, this works for, yeah, this, but this doesn't work for the text. Interesting. So group scaling doesn't work for the text, so what is gonna work for it? Interesting. So in text there is no tolerance as such, or there is, did we add tolerance for the group? Yeah, tolerance was added, and once we actually added the tolerance, how can we fix this now? One last thing that is remaining, that is the text one. This particular part, so over here we have the rect. This rect knows about what? This rect knows about tolerance. So when I'm clicking here, so even if there is tolerance, it gets the exact. Okay, let's do one thing. I do not have the exact bounding box for the text, I'm gonna be creating that first of all. So what do I have to do? Go to text, not resize, actually draw text. So we have what? We have x, we have y, we have width, we have height. What else do we want? Honestly, nothing. If we actually have the index, do we have the height, full height? We do have width. How about the height? We don't have height. Okay, how about the number of lines? Is it possible to get it? Yeah, we can split it and we can get the number of lines. So in that case, const number of lines, and that's gonna be equals to text dot split. Come on, y is gonna be y, width is gonna be width, and height gonna be number of lines multiplied by 1.2. That's the, what is the issue? Width is undefined. I'm gonna make sure it is defined. Done. ctx dot stroke style, that's actually gonna be 5.2 plus y. What? Isn't it too much? Anyway, what number of lines 1.2, height cannot be 1.2 of one line. So for that thing, y plus index, y coordinate, it expects x, it expects y, it expects max width. Draw x, y, and x and y. So this is x and this is gonna be y. Okay, fine. And so how can we calculate the height of the lines? Line height is something that's coming from here, font size by this. So the size of one line is equals to this much. So in that case, line height, this should be fine. Yeah, here we are. So this way we have it right now. And if you actually look, this is the exact rectangle around the shape. And apart from this particular thing, when we click over it, so we have the bounding box. In these bounding boxes, they have tolerance. So now if I click on this, so when we get rect, we need to make sure that we are getting the properties of the inner one. So that is why we need to subtract the rect and all, tolerance and all. That is fine, we've done that. And after that, now when we start resizing, it increases. That's what we have to stop it from happening. Okay, so at least we are able to get this. Of course we have to remove it later, but resize the text, scale the shape. We did it just like this for others, but for the shape we are doing it separately. So for the shape, what we are doing, we are getting the shape rect, we already had the shape, and we are trying to resize it. Coming back to this, we have the shape rect, and once we have the shape rect, we are passing the shape rect in here. Is group selection. If that is true, then shape bounds, initial bounds. shape bounds. Just a sec. What am I missing? Nothing seems to be missing right now. The easiest thing could have been that shape and the shape rect, just simply do this way, but it cannot be done this way because when it comes to resizing a shape, so we are resizing the font size and all, right? So we need to do it manually. So when we are doing it manually, so we had the initial bounds. Now when we have the initial bounds, why do we need the initial bounds? First of all, this thing, we need the initial bounds so that we know what was the old width. So using this we can get it, and using rect we can get the new one. But in this case, rect does return us a new one, right? Doesn't it? Rect, but rect has the tolerance, doesn't it? It is great that we have rect, but I added tolerance to the rect coordinates. There's a mosquito, come on. I'm thinking here and mosquito is biting me. So in the rect, that is x, y, width and height. So I actually have the tolerance added. So I have to remove the tolerance from the rect so that I can get the ratio, scaling ratio. How can we remove the tolerance from the rect? To check this thing out, we have to see how we are normalizing it. So how are we normalizing it? Again it came. Unfortunately I couldn't really kill it. Come on, let me turn it on. Good night, turn it on. Okay, so going ahead, shapes, and where are we normalizing it? Utilities, dimensions. Where do we have? Anyway, where are we normalizing? That's needed. Normalize. So once they have the tolerance in them, so we got x, we got y, and we got the width and the height. What do they have? They have the tolerance in them. Coming back to this, we have new height, and this new height, how did I get it? I got the new height by subtracting end y minus start y. So how can I get the value of this now? And can I directly subtract the value of the tolerance from the height? That can be done as well, because because let us see. So if we have the height, I'm gonna be directly subtracting the tolerance and probably hiding it. It increases this. Okay, this does not work. So at the end of the day, what do we have to do? We have to calculate the rect, but even if it knows about the tolerance, what's wrong with that? We have initial bounds, they have the tolerance in them. Do they have or not? Yeah, they do have. So once they have the tolerance in them, we are removing the tolerance so that we can get the exact bound. This is the first thing. The second thing is that as we move the mouse, so we wanna know about the rect's height. So it's okay to remove the tolerance from here initially, that's fine as well. And once we have the rect dot height and max y minus min y, we got this, and then new height divided by old height. So the new is gonna be bigger than the old, so we'll get the scale. Once we have the scale, updated font size, initial font size multiplied by scale. So this is how the font size is gonna be scaled. Now we need to get the dimensions. So text dimensions ctx shape dot etc text to font size, and this will just simply give us the width and height. It returns what? It returns width and height. It returns width and height, but yeah, it does. So the width and height that is actually returned, then I'm just simply assigning it here again and then returning the updated shape, and that particular updated shape is used. So we are returning it. Returning means done. And once the shape is actually returned, it's gonna be used. Okay, turns out I'm not able to figure out the bug yet. Everything is right with these. Right? Even when I add them together, we are able to move the way we want to move them and all. As for the shape, I mean text, it's problematic. So what could be the reason? Oh, this is insane. We are getting rect, and this rect is this rect, and once we have this particular rect, so what is the problem? Do we have the context here? Overlay we have enough. I want to check one thing. Overlay current dot get context 2D dot stroke rect dot x rect dot y. Width it does return, so rect dot width and rect dot height. Just a sec. Cannot redeclare. It already exists here. Okay, fine. That's good news as well. We can just have it in here. The only thing is that number on number or undefined, forget about this. So this will be only valid when I have rect. So I have rect in that case to this, and ctx dot begin path, ctx dot stroke style red. Why is this not being rendered if I have the context? I'm not able to see this. A rectangle will definitely have the width and height. Why is this rectangle not being drawn on the canvas? We have overlay canvas. We don't really have. Even if we have the overlay canvas, it should be drawn. Shape resize. So whenever we resize the shape, at that time it just simply gets called. And at the same time we call the rectangle. I can do one thing, that I can check the coordinates of the rectangle in the preview shapes, and we'll see what kind of values they have. Comment this. Let's log the values. CLG, we have rect in here, that is this preview shapes. There are gonna be only one shape, so preview let's reload it. So here we are. width of the preview shape is 298, 189. That is the rect shape. This is the main preview shape. It's not changing again and again. So how can it be 189? Did we just increased this, didn't we? So the shape is 534. The shape is definitely being increased, and this is 418. Okay, fine. How about X coil? 381, 316. Okay, they're right. How about height? Height is around 231, so height is also right. As for the width, that's just simply being increased. Okay. So that's the difference in the between in the height width, and that's completely fine because width is automatically calculated, isn't that? So as for the font size, the width is calculated. So if it is actually happening as per the, but they should be the same. They should be or they shouldn't. At least rect should be more than that. What is rect? Rect has this much width, and the preview shapes, especially this Virgil one, has this much. Why is that so? So it turns out the text has more width than the rectangle itself. In that case, what are we doing here at the end? Let me see what is the shape when the resizing is actually done. So updated shape, we updated the shape, and once the shape is actually updated, CLG here we are, and let's try this thing out. So we have rect, we have preview shape, we have this, and we have this. So first of all, the preview shape is 287, 287, 470, 470, 158, 158, and height is 69 point, 69 point something. Okay, so it's like nothing really changed in there. Height was 70, height is around that, width is 118, and that's not the case here. 158, it was 158. Okay, so what am I missing? Usually what should happen, that this rect is being calculated how? We have the current point, we pass the initial bounds, we pass initial group bounds. Okay, and once we pass initial group bounds, then just a sec, text. Let's see this thing now. So let me check the value of this and the rect. So 487 to that is okay. Width is 169 and width is 154. That simply means width is increasing in an abnormal manner. Height 68, 68, that's fine, but let's take care of the width now. So what are we doing here? Either we are actually passing the rect over here, that's fine. So once the rect is actually passed from here, so as for the width, that's just being calculated. Actually both are being calculated. So we have old height and new height. So initial bounds, we have the initial bounds. We actually remove the tolerance, that is fine, no problem with that as such. So I'll have only this rectangle in inner one, and once we have that tolerance, let me see what AI says regarding this. I wanna check out this thing right now. Initial bounds we have. Enough of this. It's gonna take a lot of time this way. I'm not even able to get the idea what's missing. Earlier one is okay, understandable, but as for this one, at least there should be some idea what could be wrong, right? So even before that we need to get that should be inside transform. Get resize rect, that should be enough. The main issue is that you are mixing the resize rectangle with the text intrinsic size. Here's what happens in your code. Get resize rect returns the bounding rectangle produced by dragging. Yeah. And resize text shape copies the rectangle onto the shape. You compute new font size from rect.height. You can at that point rect is no longer being respected. Are you kidding me? Okay, let me go through it one more time. So get a resize rect returns the bounding rectangle produced by dragging, that is right. Resize text shape copies that rectangle onto the shape. Yeah, right. You can compute new font size from rect.height, that is also right. You can then call this and override. You can then call get dimensions and override width and height measured by the text at that one there. Okay, right. So the thing is that, coming back again, I don't know the issue yet, but the thing that is happening over here, that is when we are actually resizing the text, at that time we are just simply giving it all the values, and even after that we are updating it again. So what and we need to update it because as the font size increases, the width and height they increase, or as the width and height increase, font size increases. So I need to have something or the other. Let's see what it says. At that point rect is no longer being respected, that is right. So is immediately replaced by that is right. So resized rectangle disappears. Another problem, you never reposition the text after measuring it. Suppose you are dragging the left handle, the left handle's edge moves 120. After measuring the text, the width changes from say rect dot 300 to dimensions 180, but x stays at 120. Okay. Now the opposite edge has moved as well, which shouldn't happen. Normally the opposite edge should stay fixed. For example, resizing from the left should do something like max x minus dimensions dot width. अरे भाई resizing from the left, so max x minus dimensions dot width. Okay, so max x has the full horizontal width and minus dimensions dot width. So I'm just subtracting that. So that should be the x. Okay, that's fine. Just to do max x minus the dimensions width, whatever I get, that's gonna be the x coordinate. That's right. Similarly, left keep right fix the top this. That is also right. So we are doing it inside rect actually, but scaling from only height. You are doing. What are we doing is this. Drag right handle height stays the same, scale 1, font size never changes. If you want resizing from any handle to scale text, you will need to use a width as well or choose the dominant axis depending on the handle. Tolerance is applied twice. Get a resize rect, you are already compensating, and then resize shape you do again. So you calculations are based on bounds have been adjusted twice. It's usually cleaner to remove the tolerance only once. The biggest problem is this. Can you give me the version of it? Resize the text shape. Really? Let's see. We'll explore the code, but first of all we have to check whether it actually works or not. So I'm gonna be commenting everything. It's not like I'm gonna be removing that. So the same thing we did back then, and the same thing I'm having to do it here. Let's see. Okay, this seems to be alright. We'll have to understand the code, exactly what we were missing and what's been done, but this is not the main test yet. The main test is gonna be this. It doesn't work as expected. The font size is not decreasing. Font size is not decreasing. Okay. Why it worked with one and why it doesn't work with all? When it comes to all, initial bounds will contain bounds for all, and now this rect that we have in here is gonna be the previous rect, and once it is the previous rect, I'm gonna be getting the scale. Once I get the scale, I'm multiplying the initial font size, and we are getting the dimensions. Once we got the dimensions, updated with in this, now there is a top, so max y. Text but fails for multi-selection. For resizing, every shape should be transformed relative to the okay. Compute the scale of the group. Compute each text new position related to the original group. Scale font size, measure the new text dimensions, position the text using the transform. Give me my code. Rect is rect becomes the rect for group and initial bounds become bounds for group. Let's see. Okay, so one thing, watch out, this works correctly if your text origin is top left corner. Oh, crazy. At least the one we have, it makes it bigger and smaller, right? So as for interesting, so let's do one thing. Let's customize this one only. What is going to be the customization? Customize it so that it increases so max dot x minus x. Then we need to get the new height, new width. Once we have them, so scale x that's equals to 0, in that case 1, otherwise new width divided by old width. Once we have it, we have to just simply get the scale now. Scale max dot min or max, I don't know, let's see which one is gonna be used. Scale x and scale y. Which one it is used? It has used here. It is using math.max, so maximum value is gonna be used, so that's fine. The way font is being this is the problem. So now what I want to do, so far what I have been doing, and that's been the issue, I am resizing the font size based on the scale. Now what my goal is that I will increase and decrease the height and width. The font size should be calculated automatically. As for that, let's see, is this possible to do? Let's see, is it possible to just change height and width of the text and then calculate the font size and which way is better? Yes, it's possible, but whether it's a good idea depends on how your text area is rendered. If you are drawing text with the canvas, the font size is the source of truth. Canvas does not let you render text by specifying an arbitrary width and height rendering this. Okay, there is no inverse API like that. Can you calculate the font size from width and height? Yes, but only approximately. So this way it can be calculated. Font size is gonna be this much. Then measure again and dimensions. Because the font metrics aren't perfectly in linear line, okay, this is the better approach. The approach you are already using is generally a right one. Okay, fine. When you would width and height be source of truth, especially in here if I'm writing something. So font size only increases when we increase and decrease the height, right? Now if I select interesting. So if a text is selected, in that case you cannot change the width. I mean you can, but I need to read more on it. Like I need to know more about other stuff. Then only I can fix this. How does Excalidraw handles this? Because it increases the size of the text when we Anyway, I'll have to continue from here on. It's 6:42. Let me take a break for a while because this is gonna be a good one. I'll get it back on track anyhow. That's not really a big problem. I mean that is a big problem, but we can do it. Okay, and once that is done, then I'll start working on other parts. Until then, bye bye. Take care. I'll be catching up soon.